Well, the Ahli hospital that he was just referring to is run by the Anglican Communion, a global Christian organization. In a statement, the Episcopal Diocese of Jerusalem wrote, "This day of reflection was marred by a brutal attack on Al-Ahli Anglican Hospital in Gaza during the Israeli airstrikes there. But it's not the first such attack on their health facilities." On October 10th, the Office of the Archbishop said, "Please keep in your prayers Ahli Hospital's medical director, whose home was destroyed yesterday in an aerial strike against a residential neighborhood in Gaza." And on October 15th, the American Friends of the Church wrote, "In a distressing incident on the 14th of October 2023, Ahli Arab Hospital's Diagnostic Cancer Treatment Center in Gaza City was struck by Israeli rocket fire, specifically impacting the ultrasound and mammography wards." Well, we can now speak to Marwan Jilani. He's the Director General of the Palestine Red Crescent Society and is currently in Egypt coordinating aid efforts to Gaza as the bombardment continues. He joins me now from Cairo. So thank you for your time with us here on Al Jazeera. Let me start by asking you about what we've just heard in the last few hours from US President Joe Biden. He says that Israel has agreed to let aid into Gaza, and I quote, "as soon as possible." What do you know about this agreement? Is it going to happen?
Well, nobody knows. There has been for the last few days, actually, a lot of rumors that the aid will come in from Egypt, but also through Israel into the southern crossing border entry point. We have actually prepared, together with the International Committee of the Red Cross, relief supplies to go from the West Bank into through Israel into Gaza, if that materialized. Of course, nothing of this has materialized. This morning, today, we have met with Mr. Griffith at the Egyptian Red Crescent. We are coordinating together with the Egyptian Red Crescent and with a number of UN agencies who were with Mr. Griffith. Mm-hmm. We did not, there are preparations, yes, we are getting ready, so that whenever this border crossing opens, we will be using this opportunity to get critical relief for the people inside Gaza, especially for the patients, the hospitals, and the people at large, because there is no water, there is no food, no fuel, and these are running out so critically, to the point, I think, if there is no aid coming in the next 24 hours, I think we are going to see a real more even over more death, more misery, and it's going to be a horrible, horrible situation on top of what we have already seen.
As you've just said there, that the needs are of an enormous magnitude. Is an agreement likely to allow for the scale of the aid operation needed? There's been plenty of talk of Rafah border crossing, but this is presumably going to require the opening of another border crossing beyond Rafah.
Look, if I want to be frank and honest, and I'm not, I don't think I'm sort of saying any secrets, but these discussions are talking about a camouflage, an opening of a certain number of hours, limited with a lot of conditions that can barely provide fuel for the hospitals and medicine. There will not be a real relief coming in, if that's what they're talking about. They're talking about maybe 10 to 20 trucks in total. And that is, in my opinion, it is just a camouflage. It is to provide for those who are supporting the war, for those who are beating the drums of war, to say, here we have allowed and pressured in order to have some aid coming in. The second point, which I have been emphasizing, is Israel is the occupying power. It is responsible for the safety and the protection of the civilian population. It can, at any time, get aid into Gaza. They can check it. They can make sure it is aid, it is food, it is water, and nobody can stop them. It is there. We have our trucks ready from the West Bank. A lot of other organizations will be ready to bring in stuff through Israel into the southern entry point. But that's not the point. The point, I think, is, as we have heard from the Minister of Defense himself, is actually a collective punishment, and it is to starve and pressure the people inside Gaza.
Sir,
it is a punishment of the whole people of Gaza.
You mentioned there that negotiations have been ostensibly continuing. Well, during that time that those have been taking place, we've seen ambulances, hospitals, refugee camps, as we've been hearing, all hit. How will you protect your aid workers who are doing the distribution?
This is a very important question, and it is quite honestly, Israelis are not interested in protecting hospitals or medical missions. Look, for the past few days, we have been receiving daily threats from the military authorities. Our hospital directors, every day, they get text messages and they get phone calls telling them, get out, or you are responsible for whatever is going to happen to the people inside Gaza. We're telling them we are sheltering 5,000-6,000 people in our hospital. I have to verify this, but I was told on the eve of the bombing of Ahli hospital, just after that, our colleagues in Gaza, one of my colleagues in Gaza told there was a message coming from the military coordinator, as they call him, to our hospital saying, leave the hospital or you will be responsible for the people who are going to die. So I don't think that, and of course, we have lost quite a number of medical personnel in Gaza, but also in the West Bank, with direct targeting of those paramedics and ambulances. So all this talk that Israel is really concerned, Israel makes sure that it protects and doesn't target the medical facilities and medical personnel is not backed by any evidence. On the contrary, we have been documenting for years, but this last year, we have been documenting incident after incident where our colleagues are deliberately targeted, intimidated, and threatened, as in the case with our hospital.
So I want to ask you a little bit about something you just mentioned earlier. You talked about Israeli checks on the aid and that you're very open to all of your trucks being investigated or checked by the Israeli military. Now, the US has been very clear. They've said that aid will only flow if Hamas doesn't receive any of it. Now, given the nature of Hamas, as I was discussing with an earlier guest, as a social movement, as well as the very densely populated nature of the Gaza Strip, is that realistic when it comes to aid distribution? Is there a plan for that?
Look, this is the irony. International law says you get aid to the civilian population. You don't ask what religion they are, what political color they are. People who are in need, they are civilians, they are not arms bearers. You get aid to them based on needs, not based on their political convictions, not based on whatever other qualifications. And it is really surprising that this is coming from the US because international law is very clear. International humanitarian law is very clear. You cannot starve a whole population. You cannot use aid or food and water as an instrument of war for any political or military ends. And it seems to me that they are using this aid aspect to instrumentalize the aid and the humanitarian assistance in order to fulfill or to support the military goals. And this is ridiculous. This is a violation of international law, and none of the international humanitarian organization, of course, and our local humanitarian organization, such as the Red Crescent, we're not going to do that. We will be there. We provide aid for civilians, and I stress that the civilians who need that aid, the wounded and the sick, that's who we work with. We do not provide aid for any political party or any other group. Our aid goes to those who need it from the civilian population who are in a real dire situation.
Marwan Jilani there, the Director General of the Palestine Red Crescent Society, speaking to us live from Cairo. Sir, thank you so much for joining us here on Al Jazeera at such a busy time for you. We really wish you and your organisation all the best with the work that you're doing.
Thank you.